You are listening to Minor Metrics. I'm your host, Chris Mellon. This show is powered by a script written by Lockfox at Eve Prosper. This content is aimed at players participating in the mining profession and is provided nightly to give you, dear listener, the information you need to sell your product at the right price. Starting with Tritanium, on the yearly graph we can see the capital mining crash and nerf recovery. Zooming in, the price has come out of its stall and is reaching up to 4.8. I think we've moved past any crash that might have happened and have continued on to a higher price. Luckily, if you were holding out for a longer game, you've been rewarded early. It's a good move to sell Tritanium now, although our price could rise higher. Pyrite is showing the capital mining crash and we've returned to a stall. Zooming in, we can see our price is slowly reaching up to 6.0. In the long run, I think this price has further to rise. I would hold and wait for a higher price. Moving on to Mexilon, we can see the amazing summit that we're on. Zooming in, however, we can see the crash I've been warning about is here in earnest. Despite our slight climb over the last few days, I still interpret this as a momentary volatility on the way down. So I'd sell now and cut your losses. With Isogen, we're seeing the exact same graph as Pyrite, and it's for all the same reasons. Zooming in, we can see our price has pulled out of a decline. We might be returning to a bit of a dip if Pyrite is any indication. Selling Isogen isn't a terrible idea, but only if you need to liquidate. Holding out for a better price will probably be a better move in the long run. Moving through to Noxium, we see a similar pattern to Tritanium earlier, but with a price hike up to a much better relative price point. Zooming in, we can see a huge amount of upward volatility. This is the new peak price range for this market, and I believe selling before another drop would be wise. There's even more volatility to cash out on. Zydrian's yearly graph has large movements in the early year, followed by a recent plummet in price. Zooming in, we can see the rapid decline we've experienced and the bounce back from that movement. Our price has recovered from its movement yesterday and is back in line with our growth pattern. Whether you sell now or hold depends on your bet about the future of the Zydrian price. I recommend holding and wait for another price hike. Next is Megasite. Much like Zydrian, Megasite has had large movements in the early year, but is only just now experiencing its drop. If Zydrian is any indication, this price has further to fall. There's been momentary volatility today, pushing the price back up to the moving average. This is a great chance to get out before the price drops further. For the last of our minerals, Morphite's yearly graph looks incredibly stable, but zooming in, we can see we've been experiencing a long fall in price with some recent volatility. We grew all the way to 11,000, but yesterday our price snapped back into place. I recommend holding your Morphite and waiting for a better sell signal. Now we'll move on to ice products. First up, we have Heavy Water with a massive decline after the Rorqual nerf. Afterward, we have a leveling off period. Zooming in, we can see just how stable this period is. We're seemingly moving sideways in this market for the foreseeable future. Next is Liquid Ozone, looking incredibly stable, much like our Morphite graph. And zooming in, we can see just how sideways the graph really is. The fact that the bars are blown out this large means that the scaling on this graph covers a very narrow price band, meaning the price has stayed flat for the last 90 days. We've had a bit of upward volatility, but I'd probably wait for a momentary tick in volatility like we had last month. But if you don't want to wait, you're not giving up much with this kind of price history. Strontium clathrates are in a slow decline, and zooming in we can see that this decline has been off and on for a while now. This decline will continue for a while, but will bounce back if a war of some kind starts. If you need liquid ISK quickly, selling with our current volatility is wise. But if you can hold on to stock, I'd wait to supply the next big engagement. Moving through to our isotopes, we have helium isotopes with a slow decline in price recently. Zooming in, we can see that our price has hit 625 and is crashing through the bottom of our RSI channel. If you have helium isotopes, you need to hold on to them and wait for the overcorrection from this unstable nature. The hydrogen isotope price is much more level, but zooming in, we can see our price is still at 625. This price has a lot to rise due to the rainbow fuel change with citadels, and you should hold on to your hydrogen until the price does rise. Nitrogen isotopes look like they're at the peak of a spike, and zooming in we can see they're being traded at 875, a far overvalued price. I recommend selling your nitrogen isotopes now to supply this peak, and protect yourself from a drop in progress. Oxygen isotopes look excellent as well, but the same volatility is hitting the market. Zooming in we can see oxygen isotopes are being traded at 775, and this market is likely going to correct in price. This most recent upward volatility is a great time to cash out. This has been Chris Mellon for Minor Metrics. That'll do it for the show. Thank you for tuning in, and be sure to check tomorrow for another episode.